Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of It's a Wonderful Podcast. We are back. I know it's been another 2 weeks, and it shouldn't have been another 2 weeks. It should have just been a 1 week. Lay all the blame at my feet, not Nolan's. I am Morgan Robinson, by the way, as always. Here with me, as always himself, is Nolan Dean. Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy. Well, I am personally blaming the summer sun for being too hot, which is really perfect for the kind of movie we are discussing right now.
Kind of is. Yeah, kind of is, even though it is much too hot in Britain right now. A solid 24 degrees Celsius, which I'm sure is...
I might have to break the Speedos out.
I'm sure that is just, Arctic weather for some people listening to this, but it's far too hot for us. It's beyond ridiculous. It's making us all go a bit mental, as you might gather during the course of this episode, as though we don't always go mental anyway.
Yeah, but the difference is I can't even have my cup of tea because it's too bloody hot.
It's far too hot to have any cup of tea. I fully agree with you. It's not good, guys.
And I'm not about that. I don't like
heat waves. I don't like heat waves for this very reason. I do, however, like Some Like It Hot, which is the film we're talking about today. It's a delightful film. Nolan, this was both our first Marilyn Monroe film.
Indeed.
Which is cool. I spoke about that in the last episode before we had the whole horrible technical issue at the end, and I had to re-record that ridiculous, awkward bit at the end. So only Nolan actually heard that it would have been my first Marilyn film, but it was our first Marilyn film, and she's not necessarily sort of... Obviously, she's the one everybody thinks about when they think of Some Like It Hot, and she's great and everything like that. But I think the real sort of delight with Some Like It Hot, if we're going to get straight into it, is just the fact that it is a bit silly.
Yeah, that's part of the charm and the delight of it, I reckon. It's kind of similar to those screwball comedies that you've been making me watch.
Making you watch them, or you have been watching them and you've loved them so?
Yes, I did love Bringing Up Babies, so...
See?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, some Like It Hot also. It's... I suppose... I've never sort of looked at it as... Well, at least from the outside, I've never looked at it as a screwball comedy. Mainly because I don't think it's quite as sort of fast-paced and witty and everything as something like Bringing Up Babies or pretty much anything with Cary Grant is.
Well, the pace is much slower in this one.
Yeah, it is, but it weirdly tells a bit more of a story as well.
I suppose you could consider it like a dramedy, somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, there's the whole mob subplot type thing, and if for those who aren't familiar with the basic plot of Some Like It Hot, Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis are musicians who witness a sort of a mob murder, and they go on the run they pretend to be women and join an all girls jazz band because there are no need for any male musicians in Chicago, presumably, which I think is a bit weird. Apparently, the only people looking for a saxophone player and a bass player is this all-girls jazz band who are going to Florida, so it's perfect for a getaway for Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon. So they just dress up as women and go to that, and silliness ensues.
And they also, you know what scene really surprised me? I love when they went to Florida and they met our good friend Kimber Barrett.
Well, yeah. Oh, And now I'm imagining someone like Kimber in Some Like It Hot, and it just not fitting at all.
Just that, like, dry wit.
Just be like, just the disapproval that is in everything. I always feel like Kimber disapproves of anything I do, even though I know she doesn't, but I always feel like she does. Hi, Kimber. Hi. Love you.
I think that's the first Kimber reference we've had. We've had many Raoul references, but now
Many.
we've got a Kimber reference.
Many a Raoul reference. Many a Raoul reference. Raoul actually reminds me of Osgood.
That is a very
In Some
accurate
Like It Hot.
comparison.
Who does not care that Jack Lemmon is a man. And he thought he was a woman. He's gonna marry him anyway, because nobody's perfect, are they?
Nope, nobody is perfect. This movie's not perfect, but it's damn delightful.
Why do you say it's not perfect? I'm interested now. What don't you like about Some Like It Hot?
It's not that I don't like it, it's just like I can't see myself wanting to rewatch this as much as the other ones we've talked about. Like I want to rewatch Bringing Up Baby pretty soon. But this feels like something I would watch maybe every 6 months or so.
Fair enough. I get that. Why sort of less so with this one? Is it this more sort of higher or heavier story? Well, not necessarily heavy, but more of a bit more drama than the others.
It didn't feel as involved for me as like Bringing Up Baby was. Like the pacing was a little slower, and I felt you never really got a chance to like grow with the characters as much as you did Bringing Up Baby. This one's more focused on like the mixing of the dramatic and the comedic elements, whereas Bringing Up Baby was very character focused, and that just appeals more to me.
That's fair enough. To be fair. I must admit though, I know you always see, and I people know I don't necessarily like listing or ranking things, but you always see Some Like It Hot near the top of many of people's best comedies of all time. And it is very funny. It is funnier than I originally thought it was.
Very funny.
Than I originally thought it would be. Jack Lemmon has the capability of just making me laugh just by moving his face.
Just his name makes me laugh.
Why? The fact that his name is Lemon?
Yeah, I'm just imagining like if you ever met someone with the last name Lime, they would be very happy together.
Lemon and Lime, the new, I don't know what's a comedy duo. Morecambe and Wise, for those
Abbott
familiar
and
with
Costello,
Morecambe and Wise.
Laurel and Hardy.
He's just Lemon and Lime. Tony Curtis can be Lime. Can Tony Curtis be Lime? We could have Harry Lime from The Third Man, Orson Welles' character. Let's do that.
Also, another pretty good comedy duo, Robinson and Dean.
Very poor comedy duo, as far as I'm concerned. More of a great comedic mind, and you.
Yeah, that's true.
Is what we're going for. No, that was horrendously arrogant of me. How unusual. What's happening? How unusual.
This movie is causing you to bring out your arrogant side.
I don't know why. I don't know why at all.
Maybe you think that you could go join a jazz band.
I would love to be a member of a jazz band, even though I have little musical knowledge.
I reckon you'd be the drummer.
No, I wouldn't be a drummer. I wouldn't be a drummer.
What, did you? Because you saw Whiplash?
Yeah, but I wouldn't be a drummer without seeing Whiplash or anything like that. It doesn't work. There's too many things. There's too many things with drummers. You have to use all four limbs and your head sometimes if you want to bash your cymbal with your head, which is possible.
Not at a jazz gig.
No, not at a jazz gig, but some people. Animal from the Muppets bashes his head on the drums.
Well, that's just because he's a Muppet.
I am also a Muppet, secretly.
That is also true.
Secretly, I am also a Muppet. But anyway, enough about the Muppets and jazz bands. Jack Lemmon is the more silly one, I feel, of the duo in this. Yet I preferred Tony Curtis's character and performance.
I can definitely see that, yeah.
I think Jack Lemmon was in this purely for the comedic. Tony Curtis has that. He has the romantic arc, which helps, though. And I also think Tony Curtis pulls off a much better woman than Jack Lemmon does.
Yeah, he's definitely got
he-
more of that vibe.
I think he looks more like a woman in when he's pretending to be a woman than Jack Lemmon does.
I do also love the names of the characters in this movie, like Joe and Jerry become Josephine and Daphne, and Marilyn Monroe's character is named Sugar Cane, spelt with a K. Like
Sugar Cane is a fantastic name. It's such a stage name.
very much so.
I love it. You were actually saying something to me before about Marilyn, and because this was your first Marilyn film as well, of how sort of she came off in this compared to what you think.
Yeah, growing up, I always associated Marilyn Monroe with that, like, if you don't like me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. So I always assumed that her style of comedy would be, like, quite standoffish, kind of similar to, comedians that just like to own the stage. But in this, it's not like that at all. It's very much the opposite. She's quite a bubbly, sweet personality, like someone you would want to be around. So that was a nice surprise for me.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I've ever personally thought of Marilyn in her films, at least from the outside, because I'd never seen her in a film before this either. I can't say I ever got the impression she would be standoffishness. Obviously, she is the sex symbol, the bombshell, the sort of steals every scene she's in purely because of how many eyes turn toward her. But she's really kind of bouncy and bubbly and fun. Really, she's very much a female in a screwball comedy. Going back to that, she's very much a sort of Katharine Hepburn, but not as quick-witted. In fact, not quick-witted at all. Quite just like, I don't want to say stupid, but because like most of the characters in Some Like It Hot are to a point really stupid. But maybe it just fits with the whole film. I don't know.
Yep, and there is a character in Some Like It Hot that really got under my skin because he is the absolute worst. I think you know who I'm talking about.
Who got under your skin because he's the absolute worst? Please tell me.
Junior.
Why? Why? Why?
The millionaire. It's just that snootiness. It's just it just reminds me too much of the people I have to serve drinks to at work.
Okay. So Junior is the man who Tony Curtis, as a woman, pretends to be in order to seduce Marilyn, right?
Yeah.
It's all very weird. I love Junior because he's doing a Cary Grant impression. Got that from the first sentence he said. And then I went to just look it up because I was saying to myself, Tony Curtis, he's got to be doing a Cary Grant impression. He sounds too much like Cary Grant. And sure enough, he was doing a Cary Grant impression. So I just loved that. And, I'm sat there trying to perfect my own Cary Grant impression whilst watching Tony Curtis pull off a Cary Grant impression. It's all a bit silly. But,
the air to shell oil was the thing that just got under me. Like, that was just like... It's like, I know these people, and they're the worst, but the fact they make a comedic thing out of it, that made me chuckle. I like that a lot.
the thing is as well, like, I know ultimately his only gain for becoming Junior, as he calls him, is to seduce Marilyn. But he sort of plays Junior as really kind of just, I don't want to say childish, but like innocent. But again, it's that sort of fake innocence of where he's just doing it for this sort of, pig-like reason.
Yeah, and I think
But
this
it's still
movie's
kind of
excessive use
interesting.
of disguises, it lends pretty well to character actors like Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis.
Yeah, definitely. And like I was saying before, I think Tony Curtis actually gives the better performance of the two, even though Jack Lemmon, I think, is much funnier. But that's just because of Jack Lemmon's capability for physical comedy. He reminds me weirdly of, like, in just the ability to make me laugh by just moving his face, of someone like Chevy Chase in the early 80s, who,
Yeah, that's pretty
in
accurate.
like if you watch Caddyshack or if you watch Vacation or something like that, a slight just change of the face of Chevy Chase can just crack me up. And Jack Lemmon was doing the same thing in this, especially in his scenes with Osgood, who is a wonderful, just another ridiculous character who falls in love with Jack Lemmon's Daphne, having absolutely no idea, even though Jack Lemmon really looks like a man in drag. He just has absolutely no idea that Jack Lemmon isn't a woman. And, I think he proposes at one point. And obviously there's the famous end scene is nobody's perfect.
I looked this up after because apparently this was one of the. I heard this was one of the first films to portray homosexuality like that,
Yeah,
and there's a slight hint at it.
yeah.
I just find that pretty interesting. It's, like I think the exact line he says is that Jerry removes his wig and he says, "I'm a man," and the guy Osgood, I believe his name was, just responds with, "Yeah, nobody's
He
perfect."
doesn't care. Osgood doesn't care. I think he's just formed this bond with who Jack Lemmon was being as Daphne. And
So Osgood was our first queer character that we've had in one of these
maybe he is.
episodes of our show.
I've not actually thought about it like that. Maybe he is. Maybe he just likes anyone and everyone. Good
Yeah,
for Osgood.
You finally given me a movie on the show with a character I can relate to.
Look, there's not too much diversity in old films, okay?
Yeah, I know.
It's the one downside of them. Yes, it's a pretty big downside, okay, fair enough. Guys, don't kill me. But, but no, maybe Osgood, that's a weird point. I'm going to be thinking about that now. Because he seriously, maybe it's just played for laughs. Which
more than likely that's the case, but looking at it now, you could view that as a potential queer character.
Yeah, and I'd kind of like to do that now. Looking back on it now rather than looking at it in 1959 when it came out. But Nolan, I've been talking as I always do for ages. What did you particularly enjoy about Some Like It Hot?
I love just how utterly ridiculous it was. This movie just gave no hells, no dams, nothing when it came to like the tonal differences of the movie, because we open with this like sort of mob scene that feels like it could be out of like a heist movie or like an Ocean's 8 or something like that, and then we're treated to this like silly buddy comedy where they meet Sugar Cane and then antics ensue, and then the mob stuff comes back. You get all this Shell Oil stuff, and then the ending just made me laugh out loud because I saw it coming a mile away, I think, because I've seen this scene parodied so much.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big meeting with the mob, a cake comes in, and of course, this guy just jumps through the cake and shoots all the mobsters dead. And I felt like I've seen that parodied so many times that when it happened,
Yeah.
I just laughed out loud.
Everybody, there's always a cake involved somewhere. If there's going to be some sort of mob hit in a silly film, there's always a cake involved. Oh, actually, who was it? Oh no, there's a cake involved in Singing in the Rain, but dancing girls came out of it. Not
Don't dance with cakes. Like,
not a
you're just
man.
gonna
No,
mess
they're
the
not dancing.
cakes up.
They're not dancing with the cakes. They're dancing out of the cake.
That's even worse. You're gonna screw the cake up. Those take a long time to make.
It's better than shooting out of a cake. Nobody likes.
Fair enough.
Nobody likes the mob, unless you're a mobster. In which, mind you, even mobsters don't like the mob. Probably. I don't know. I can't speak for people in organised crime.
Except Raoul.
Is Raoul in organised crime?
I reckon he is. He's probably got a mob that's going after the Pretty Little Liars creators.
Raoul is Osgood.
Yes, that's very accurate.
Raoul is Osgood, actually. That's
Raoul,
our
this
Raoul
movie's
comparison.
on Netflix, so you can now go watch it and get our references.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, that's one of the reasons why I sort of picked this film, not only because it was, it's one of these films you should ultimately see, but it was also going to be my first Marilyn, and it was just easy enough to watch on Netflix. It's a nice sort of 2 hour. It's not overly long. It doesn't sort of, but it never drags. It's a really nice, sweet length, and it's just delightful from start to finish, really. You are going to have a smile on your face all throughout Some Like It Hot. Even though
And I did. Even despite the pacing issues, I did have a smile on my face.
I do disagree with the pacing issues. I do disagree.
Disagree away, please.
That there's any pacing issues. I also forget how funny the stuff on the train is when they're going down.
Please talk about that, because I need to be reminded about the train stuff.
When they're going down to Florida, just like the fact that none of them are allowed to drink, yet somehow they all end up in Jack Lemmon's bed drinking, and Tony Curtis is still just fast asleep with just madness going on around him. And well, it all starts
That's how
really
most celebrations
because
turn out.
Marilyn's been drinking. Marilyn shouldn't be drinking. Jack Lemmon sort of saves her from getting kicked out of the band. And then she comes to him later at night, when of course he's still in full Daphne gear, and sort of has to hide in his bed with him, and that can get all a bit, a bit odd like that. You know what's gonna start happening there with a comedy. Jack Lemmon's gonna start going, oh, well, oh no, you can't. Marilyn's just, because it's just, as far as she's concerned, it's two girls just doing normal things. I don't know what.
And he can't blow his cover, and that's kind of the funny part of it.
And he can't blow his cover. That is ultimately the funny part. And yes, some of the humour, especially when it comes to the sort of gender stuff, is maybe a bit dated. But ultimately, I think that it's the situation that's funny. Like, it's not necessarily one to focus on the sort of more generalised gender aspects, because I'd never like to use the phrase product of its time.
But it is a product of its time, ultimately.
But I think you get what I'm trying to say. It's still a very funny movie. It's not there to make a sort of big point or anything like that. It is pure entertainment. So ultimately, I really don't think that necessarily matters to the quality of the movie at all. But it's a point to bring up. But yeah, they all just get sort of hammered on the train, and it's just all very funny. It's the sort of big bonding session that all the girls have.
Which I actually
Obviously.
relate to because most of my friends growing up were girls.
And you were, of
I
course,
never.
Jack Lemmon in the middle of it all, pretending to be a girl.
Well, I wasn't pretending to be
Were
a
you
girl,
were
but
you wearing a wig and a dress?
I wear a dress anyway. That's just like a regular Tuesday for me.
Well, yeah.
I'm wearing a dress right now.
He is actually. I can attest that he is wearing a dress right now. Very
And
fetching dress as well, I must say.
yeah, you need it in the summer heat, so I related to the characters that way.
Oh
But
dear.
I don't think you'd be watching this movie for like its diversity or like any of the social commentary stuff. You're watching this for the situational comedy. If you want a movie for diversity, we all know what you have to go to. Obviously, it has to be Shrek.
No, you don't go to Shrek for diversity. Shrek's not gonna got any diversity. But I know that's the point I was making. It is pure entertainment.
I
Um,
know. I
and
had to fit in the Shrek reference somewhere.
you did, I suppose, have to fit the Shrek reference in somewhere. Although, well, no, do you know what? I can't actually think of a legitimate Shrek reference. It's very, very not as easy as it was last week. Or last
Oh
episode, I
yeah.
should say, with
I
Robin
the
Hood.
ne-
A
the
very
next episode because I know what we're doing. That's gonna be the hardest to fit a Shrek reference.
Oh, are we doing what you've told me we're doing next episode? Not to
Oh
spoil anything
yeah.
just yet.
No
Okay.
spoilers, but
Yeah, do you know what?
yes.
That is gonna be quite a difficult Shrek reference, unless there's an actor there, which there's potential, but I'm not
Quite
sure.
possibly. But we'll get back to Some Like It Hot for now.
We will. Nolan, what else did you enjoy? If you can remember so far back to when you actually saw it, because, like I said, blame me that we're doing this so late.
I'm just trying to like recollect my thoughts right now. I know there was
Yeah.
one scene on a beach that I found very funny,
Is
and it
it?
also
Was it
had
the
that.
where Jack Lemon's playing some sort of ball throwing game with everyone?
Yes, exactly. That is it.
Because I found that really funny. Because he's getting so involved. I don't know. Like I said, it's Jack Lemon's physical comedy that just cracks me up, and the fact that he's just getting so involved. I think this is when Tony Curtis first, displays himself as Junior the Millionaire as
I just
well.
realized what the theme of this movie
Uh,
is.
what is the theme of this movie?
It's kind of like wanting to belong to something. And hear me out on this. Like, these two were
Jay,
musicians.
you found something here.
Yeah.
You have found something here, so please go.
These two were musicians. They experience something that makes them have to go on a run. They join a group dressed as someone else, pretending to be someone else so they can be accepted, ultimately for weirder reasons. But throughout the movie, they end up growing and kind of developing each other as characters and developing their relationships. You do feel like they have a bit of a sense of community towards the end, and you pair that with the community of having mobsters as the villains. The community seems like a pretty solid theme for this movie.
I like that a lot. Never even crossed my mind, but I like that a lot. Do you know what Some Like It Hot has?
What?
Come on. Come
It
on.
has.
It,
Oh, it's
it
layers.
has. It has layers. Yay. Some
Oh,
Like It
there we
Hot
go.
has layers to it, and Nolan's found the layers. I didn't find the layers. Nolan's the key analyst of this week. I love that. I actually seriously, I love that point. I didn't even think about that. It is sort of like a bad, sort of, what's the word? Divided community in the mobsters, because you see at that sort of meeting they all have that they all sort of don't really get on with each other, especially this one group that ends up getting shot. Against
you got
the sort of
the
good
masculinity and femininity defenses there, because they both kind of learn from each other, whereas the mobsters do not learn at all. Maybe that's their downfall. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it could be said that at some parts, some like it hot, sometimes you feel that Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis are learning the sort of negative things that men can think about or do towards women as well, because they receive it themselves. Like, especially when Jack Lemmon first meets Osgood, and he starts just trying to... he's just relentless. And then they go in the elevator, and we're led to believe that there's been a bit of touching, and Jack Lemmon is not too happy about this at all.
Was Osgood Harvey Weinstein's favourite character?
I think you've just said Osgood might be the, nice.
Now that you've said that, I'm
character.
just thinking, no, I don't want him as queer representation at all.
Okay, we don't want Osgood.
We're scrapping the queer representation thing. It's an interesting angle to think about, but Osgood, he's a little handsy. Let's be honest.
Osgood was married about 6 times. Osgood he's a playboy. Osgood.
And there is that other thing on the beach that I think this was also the one that got under my skin. What was this, like, Junior, the person who was demanding shade and was acting all fucking like, oh yeah, this is my beach, I own the place kind of guy? Was that
Oh,
Junior?
you mean when he tells off the kid?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's him pretending. Because obviously Tony Curtis.
I thought that was a different character.
No, that's Junior. But obviously Tony Curtis is putting on his act at that point.
My mind has been blown right now.
No, that's just Junior. It's because he's doing the Cary Grant impression.
See, I thought that was like some actual obnoxious guy who was related to the mob. Now that I remembered it's Junior, that changes the whole thing, because he kind of takes on the the uber masculine guy, that's working with the theme of community, masculinity versus femininity. It's got some good themes, some good layers.
It has. This is why I also say that Tony Curtis gives the best performance here, because Tony Curtis is playing a character who's playing a character who is also playing another character.
Method acting amongst method acting without the need to send used condoms to your castmates.
He plays Joe, Josephine, and Junior. And they're all...
The 3 J's.
The 3 J's, and they're all different, and they're all wonderful in their own right.
Indeed.
I feel like we do need to talk a bit more about Marilyn, though.
We do, because let's face it, Sugar Cane is a ridiculous name, but it's so stage namey.
Yeah.
But Marilyn Monroe just makes it work, because she's so charming in this.
She really is. You've got a couple of musical numbers in there as well. Most notably,
which I always appreciate.
I Want to Be Loved by You, which any human being knows Marilyn's performance of that. And that's a nice sort of, not necessarily palate cleanser, but it's a nice break from the rest of it to just listen to her sing that for 2 or 3 minutes or so, or however long it is.
Yeah.
I know that from looking up certain stuff after I saw this, that Marilyn would sometimes take, or frequently take, about 30 takes to actually get a filmable take.
Oh God! Could you imagine if her and Stanley Kubrick were in the same movie?
No.
The amount of takes that would be taken.
No, I couldn't.
You could make sequels with all the takes they would have.
Yes, you could. You could probably make sequels with all the takes of Kubrick films anyway. But
That's true.
I mean, aside from the fact that Marilyn might have taken ages to get a filmable take done, I still think she's great. I think she's delightful in this. I mean, it has made me want to go and watch other Marilyn films, definitely. 7 Year Itch.
For sure.
And, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. And obviously, I get, you get the feeling that Marilyn's going to be playing Marilyn in them all. I don't think there's necessarily too much range to her, but there doesn't have to be when she brings this much charm and this much fun to what she's doing. And I think
back in those times, you didn't have actors who had a lot of range. You had like your Cary Grants and your Katharine Hepburns, and they were known for playing types, and they sort of just played that up.
Yeah, I mean, method acting as we know it didn't come in until like the 70s. You think of early people to do that. It's like, De Niro and people like that. Who were true method actors. But like I was going to say, you completely buy the romance between Tony Curtis and Marilyn in this.
Yeah.
Even though it does sometimes have that sort of
weirdness.
Weird old movie type romance. But it's still perfectly, you get that whole story. The weird relationship between Jack Lemmon and Osgood is not really believable at all. For some reason, Jack Lemmon just completely goes along with it at the end. I think because Osgood has bought him a bracelet, which is a bit silly. But I don't know. It's a silly film. We found some interesting
trivia as well.
Go for trivia.
Well, I think from what we're saying here, Sugar Cane might be like one of our favorite characters from this movie. I just found out, especially with the musical numbers, this was adapted into a Broadway musical entitled Sugar.
Ooh.
Same plot and everything, but I think they focused more on Sugar Cane's character, which that's interesting. If I can find a DVD of this musical, then I will check that out.
Yeah, that might actually be interesting. I mean, I feel like we get enough of who Sugar is. She's, a bit of a drinker at the start who needs to, stop. She's very fond of saxophone players who wear glasses, weirdly, and millionaires, right? So why don't we just have a prequel?
You gotta have the millionaires in a movie like this.
Obviously, this is not a film about. You can't not have millionaires. Millionaires are what make old films.
The millionaires always have to be like really pompous, stuck-up people as well.
When did you ever see people in normal clothing? When did you ever see people in old films that weren't wearing suits and or ball gowns? You don't. You just don't. It's just a thing. It's just a thing. But no, I like this actual more sugar-focused musical. Because she would actually be quite an interesting character to go off. I mean, if you were looking at it in today's movie market, you'd be making prequels about a prequel trilogy starring Sugar Cane and her exploits into saxophone players who also wear glasses.
I think with the way franchises are now, we've seen what happens when we have prequel trilogies.
The Some Like It Hot prequel. We've seen what happened when we have prequel trilogies.
Yeah, okay. We get hobbits.
We do get hobbits, that's true. We don't need the Hobbit. Don't bring up Star Wars.
Oh, I was going to say Fantastic Beasts as well.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, fantastic. Again, completely unnecessary. We don't need it.
I'd be
Even
down for
though,
like a sugarcane limited series though, like maybe Cobra Kai did similar kind of things to
look,
that.
I think I might be the only person on the planet who hasn't watched this Cobra Kai nonsense.
Well, are you a Karate Kid fan?
Not really, no.
Then it's probably not for you.
I know, but everybody's going on about it, and I'm sick of hearing about it, and I want to know what's going on. I don't know.
Anyway, this is not a review of Cobra Kai.
It's not a review of Cobra Kai, and it's also not a pitch the prequel starring Sugar Cane.
Who would play a sugarcane now? Like, who's the modern day Marilyn?
Who's the modern day Marilyn is a horrible question. They don't exist. It's like saying who's the modern day Elvis. Nobody has ever been as big as Elvis and Marilyn Monroe.
That's
Nobody.
true.
Charlie
Were they
Chaplin,
ever in
maybe.
movies together?
No, I don't think so. If they were, the world would end, wouldn't it?
True, that's like the coming of the apocalypse, especially that happened nowadays.
Unless they have, and someone knows about that somewhere. I don't think so, because I've seen a lot of Elvis films. A lot of Elvis films. And Elvis wouldn't have allowed himself to not be the star of his film. They're all
Marilyn
bad.
Monroe
I mean,
have
they're not
let
all
that?
bad. No, Marilyn wouldn't have let that either. So, no, that probably didn't happen. But, I mean,
We could dream.
look at the entertainment world. I think, like I said, I think there's 3 people who are the most well-known. There is not a human being who doesn't know their face, and Elvis, Marilyn, and Charlie Chaplin. I think you could look at anyone else, and some people wouldn't know who they are, and other people would, but not those 3. And
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, Marilyn's great in this, like we said. It's made me want to go and watch a load more Marilyn stuff. Nolan, what else did you like about this? Some Like It Hot.
I was just going to ask you the same thing. Even though the pacing was a little bit of an issue for me, I do like the way that this manages to blend the dramatic and the comedy together and do it pretty seamlessly.
Yeah.
Like, because that's just like the nature of realistic dialogue. Sometimes it can be quite serious, but then when it gets too serious, you're let down with a bit of a joke. It's like a good way to use bathos in storytelling, and I really appreciate that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that is Billy Wilder to a T. I mean, I know he directed it. Presumably, he wrote this as well. Billy Wilder being one of the most highly regarded, filmmakers of all time. I know you get this especially in The Apartment, which also stars Jack Lemmon, which has got, a somewhat dramatic and a bit of a romantic story to it, but he's also very funny. And it is, it's testament to the filmmakers themselves and the writers. And it's the exact same in Some Like It Hot. I just think it's a staple of Billy Wilder, really, that he's able to weave drama and comedy really well to create these sort of really entertaining, just easy watching as well. Like, it doesn't take a lot to watch something like this. It doesn't take a lot out of you. Stick it on a Sunday afternoon, you're sorted.
Is Sunday afternoon just movie day for you?
Sunday afternoon is movie day for literally everybody. That's when you watch films.
Yeah.
Sunday afternoon with your granddad, no? Watching westerns.
Well, my granddad's dead, so no.
Oh, well, okay. Let's not get depressing. I'm just saying general things.
I know what you mean.
Watching war films, maybe.
Yeah.
Bridge on the River Kwai 48 times in the space of a year for no good reason, even though there aren't 48, or there are 48 Sundays. There are 48 Sundays in a year, because I don't know how long a year is. God damn it.
You see what this has done to us, so we've gotten so ridiculous that
Thing is, it's not this. It's not even this that's done to us. I'll tell you what it's done to me. It's the goddamn heat.
Yep, let's blame the heat, because while some do like it hot, British people do not like it hot.
While some do like it hot, everybody likes it cold. Because it's just better. Some like it hot is actually a reference to jazz itself. And it's a quote from Tony Curtis in here, in this film. What does he say? He says something like, well, some like it. He's doing his Cary Grant impression that I'm not going to try and do because I've realised that my Cary Grant impression is just awful. It's not like my Jimmy Stewart impression. My Jimmy Stewart impression is very good. I pride myself on my Jimmy Stewart impression, but I can't do a Cary Grant. But he says, I think he says, well, some like it hot, but personally I prefer classical music. He's just like, oh, of course you do, Junior the Millionaire.
See, this is why it got under my skin, because I hate those kind of people.
Well, I want to get into this now. Why do you hate those kind of people so much?
It's just like... I hate snobs. And
I
just
know,
as well
but
it was
what about-
played for comedy.
What about fake snobs?
Fake snobs are even worse. Like,
Why are fake snobs
Why would you
worse?
why would you pretend to be just a punchable person? Like,
Because it's funny.
it is funny, but still, it just... I think it might have been because when I watched this, I had just gotten off from a shift at work, and I was just like, for God's sake, no more of this.
Perhaps the depression of work and the snobs that you encounter at work are making you not like characters in such old films as much as you perhaps should.
Yes, quite possibly. I should watch this again when I'm in a happier state.
Yeah. It's a really fun movie. It's a really fun movie. And I feel like we've said all we need to. Do you feel like we've said all we need to?
Yeah, it's got a lot of heart. It's really funny. Despite the snobs and some of the pacing, I would watch it again sometime.
I really loved Some Like It Hot. Like I said, it's made me want to go and watch more Marilyn films. It's made me want to really fill out my Billy Wilder watching because I've only watched a couple of others apart from this. And yeah, Tony Curtis, by the way.
I just realised what Some
dude.
Like It Hot reminds me of, like the title.
What?
Reminds me of a KFC commercial.
Oh, for God's sake, why'd you have to go and ruin it?
I don't know, we just, like
at
Billy
your
Wilder,
face.
we got serious for a moment, and then we had to just end on a joke. A poor joke, but a joke nonetheless.
Do not compare us to Billy Wilder. We are nothing like Billy Wilder. What an insult to the legacy of Billy Wilder that is. To compare me and you to him. It's just ridiculous. I was actually
Blasphemy, innit?
I was actually saying that Tony Curtis was a very good-looking dude.
He is.
Very good-looking. I think he was married about 8 times or something like that as well in his life. Which,
Yeah.
you do you, Tony. I don't know what else to say. But this Some Like It Hot was my pick for episode 14. You've just heard us go on about it in our usual silly casual self. Nolan, I know what Nolan's picked for episode 15. We're going to be cheating the system a bit, but I felt it. He asked me if we could cheat the system a bit. I felt it was worth it, even though he may end up killing us by the next episode. Nolan, what are we talking about?
I'm curious why you think I would be killing you, but I'll tell you what we're talking about. Just to know.
Out of depression.
Oh yeah, just to know. I had to bribe Morgan with some very special tea to make this episode happen, which he's drinking right now. despite it being a hot day.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on, man? Like, I told you to save that for special occasions. You guys know I'm a big reader. Morgan, did you know that I read books?
I didn't actually. This is new information. Shocking.
Well, I discovered that I hate the idea that animation is only for kids. I hate the idea that kids' stories can't have powerful themes. I also hate the fact that the film, based off a great novel, it's from 1978, called Watership Down, has been genuinely forgotten when people talk about great animated films. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to traumatize you all.
Yeah. Yeah, you are. I don't want to watch Watership Down. I don't want to watch Watership Down. It's
Consider
too
this
depressing.
payback for the war film you made me watch.
Look, right. Witchfinder General is a great film.
It's also depressing as
It's
hell.
not depressing. It's not
Watership Down is going to look like Shrek compared to that.
Witchfinder General is not depressing. Witchfinder General is just a bit twisted. And it's full of graphic violence, okay? It's not depressing.
So is Watership Down.
Yeah, but Watership Down's graphic violence is on rabbits. Little rabbits. There's no need for the violence and the just sadness.
To be honest, I can go into why I picked this a bit more. Recently, Morgan's getting tired of me talking about it, but it's a bit of a rabbit hole, funnily enough. Jake Gyllenhaal got cast as Mysterio in the next Spider-Man movie, so I went back and I watched some Jake Gyllenhaal movies, including Donnie Darko, which has an entire subplot dedicated to them watching Watership Down in their English class and discussing the themes. And this is meant to be a somewhat educational show, so that's why I picked Watership Down.
Nolan, I cannot believe that is the reason.
I've been wanting to talk
reason.
about animation for this anyway, and I didn't want to pick something predictable.
To be fair, we haven't done an animated film yet, and there's a hell of a lot of animate. Mind you, I was going to say there's a hell of a lot of animated films. Let's face it, there's a hell of a lot of Disney films we could do
That's true.
From this era, only some of which aren't horrendously racist.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure we'll get
we
to
won't
the
do Song of the South.
No, we're not doing no. I'm sure we'll do the non-racist ones when we go to animation further in the future. But apparently, our first delve into the world of animation will be Watership Down. So get ready to cry your eyes out, guys, as you listen to me cry into this microphone.
It's also British, so it helps us.
I'm just letting you know now. I don't want to watch it. I'm doing it. I just don't. I'm not doing. I am doing. Because to not do would be beside the point. But yeah, that's what we're watching. So to leave us all on that note, I don't know if anybody's gonna want to listen to next episode. Unless you really do want to just hear sadness from me. And maybe
next week's episode will have the best Shrek reference we've ever done.
You can't go around.
You don't want to miss that.
You can't go around promising things like that. How are you going to deliver that?
Because I always do. And it's dark and twisted, so Raoul will love it.
Raoul loves everything we do, and that's why we love him. Funnily enough, we also love anything Raoul does. Nolan, you did something with Raoul earlier on this week, I believe.
Yes, Raoul and his friend Troy Loxton, who's also a fan of ours, a very wonderful guy, had me on his podcast, and we talked everything from Star Wars Solo, a Star Wars story, to Deadpool 2, and me and Troy just nerded out about Mysterio for about half an hour, which is kind of the main reason I wanted to go on it, but that was really fun. I'm sure you're going to be on a guest there too.
Oh yes, I haven't been invited as
He
we
will.
speak
Troy
this
is trying
now.
to get you on, and I want to do some more video essays now that school is finally over. Like,
Yay!
like,
Applause.
I'm thinking of doing some on like Jurassic Park and Donnie Darko, but I also want to see like what do you guys want to see me do a video essay on? Like, please let me know because I think I'm running out of analyses that I can pull out of my ass and write an essay about.
Look at this. You are witnessing a writer lose creativity in front of your ears.
I blame school because they've made me do a bunch of essays talking about McDonald's,
Blame
and I'm
McDonald's.
done talking about McDonald's.
You will not be seeing a video essay of Nolan's on McDonald's, but if you do want to go and check out his video essays, if you're listening to this on YouTube, his channel is one of the featured channels on this channel. If you are listening to this audio only, go onto YouTube, type in Nolan Dean, you'll find all these essays and stories as lessons, and they're all pretty good. I mean, there's some bad ones.
Yeah, there's some bad ones like that one I did on Watership Down that I'm just going to bring up again. I didn't do a video essay on Watership Down.
I wish you could all see my face every time he brings up that film. I really wish you could. But yeah, go and check out.
I feel like we're gonna finally get the Eeyore Morgan that you're always talking about when we talk about Watership Down.
What do you mean finally? Do you know what? You are actually you are seriously gonna get horrendously depressed me next episode, and I hope you're all looking forward to it. Like I said, go and check out Nolan's Nolan's wonderful stuff. Go and check out what's Troy's and Raoul's new show called?
The guest spotlight. And there's a nice little thumbnail of me edited as Mysterio with a fishbowl on my head, if you want to go laugh at that.
Right, so there will be a link to that in the description as well if you want to go and hear him bang on about things that aren't old movies, because there are other things in the world as well. We just have our own little niche here. But what?
But Mysterio is very similar to Vincent Price, so I found a way to connect it.
Mysterio is not very similar to Vincent Price in any way.
He's very theatrical like Vincent Price is. He was based off Vincent Price. I do my comic research.
Doctor Strange was based off Vincent Price.
Mysterio is evil Doctor Strange with a fishbowl on his head.
Mysterio, I don't know. I don't know enough about Mysterio to argue with you. I also don't have any more energy. So, guys, if you want to hear me, if you want to hear me do some more stuff, as always, I'm doing the readings, the audio books, whatever you want to call them. Ghost stories, weird tales, gothic tales, they're all on my YouTube channel. Whilst this podcast is my more casual speaking type deal, this series of readings and audiobooks is a more sort of, I don't know, I treat it as more professional, if that makes any sense. This is the fun thing, that's the more sort of professional type thing I do. And it's very fun. I love doing them. So go and check them out if you're looking for a nice story to fall to sleep to, or to listen wherever you want to listen to a 25-minute long usually story, because they're all great. And I hope I do them all justice with my voiceover of them, or my reading of them, I should say.
But I have a request for you.
A request?
Please read Watership Down.
I'm not reading Watership Down. I'm not doing... Stop mentioning Watership Down. We're not mentioning Watership Down now until the next episode. I've put my foot down on the Watership. Right. It's not happening. But, like I said, all those readings are on my YouTube channel, and it is one of the featured channels on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel, or if you're listening on audio only, go onto YouTube, type in Purple Dawn, and you will find my channel with all that good stuff on. Follow the podcast on Twitter at It's a Wonderful One to keep up with all the new episodes and sometimes polls that we do as well, because polls are always fun. And I want to start doing the when we talked about specific genre months a while ago. I want to start doing that soon, so that should be a lot of fun as well. But follow me on Twitter at the Purple Dawn with a 3 instead of the E in the. Follow Nolan at
Nolan Dean 27 because 27th of March is when I was born, and my name is Nolan Dean.
Your reason is not as fun as mine. Mine involves Patrice Everett. Therefore, it's much better. Guys, thank you once again for listening to another episode of It's a Wonderful Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it. Until the depression of next week, goodbye.
Goodbye.